Ladies and gentlemen, I am very thrilled to be joined on the Chronicles. The search continues by Maryland royalty in the form
Oh,
of Nick, Lord Baltimore Pappas, making his way to the Chronicles today, taking time out of his busy schedule. Nick, this is my dear friend Nick Pappas. How you doing today, my brother?
I'm doing great. Doing even better that I'm here now.
Yeah, that's great news. You can see him rocking the bird up top. Look at that, Bill.
Oh, always. Fresh too. This is the first time I've worn this one. I had to get a new one because the other two I wear at work were just dismantled. So this is a brand new one. First time using it.
Man, oh man, I am honored now in this case. Right on. Sweet.
Yes, sir.
Nick Mathis and I went to college together. He was part of the B-Niners of Laurel Hall.
Oh yeah.
What's crazy to me is the amount of memories that we crammed into what was for you just 1 year at York. And we still cite those stories and those memories. One, like they happened yesterday, but two, there were enough to fill like all 4 years of college in literally 1 year of college. And I think that's a testament to you. And I'm so glad you're here, and I can't wait to recount a couple of these here with you today. So, to get us started, I feel like a lot of this conversation might fall back on kind of first impressions and kind of the evolution of kind of our friendship, both together and basically as a dorm, because that was a pretty kind of fluid concept back in those days. And I guess what sets the tone right off the bat is that fresh hat of the Baltimore Orioles. Because Nick, when we first got to know you, it was amazing how much of kind of what you spoke about seemed to circle back to the great state of Maryland. And it's kind of impact on how it made you who you were, which is a very special person indeed. Nick, as nebulous as this is, and as much as I'm sure you could go an hour on it, can you tell me a little bit about kind of your affinity and indeed affection for Maryland?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious when we first met that I think my age that married a state in the country was probably a mindset that every other state was probably like this puny little state, and this guy makes it out to be the center of the world. But I don't know. I guess just growing up here, like, I mean, there's a company that just makes all kinds of material and clothing, hats, anything you could think of. That's just the Maryland flag, because apparently it's the greatest flag in the country.
It is a unique flag, man. Tell me about it, man. I couldn't even begin to describe it. I mean, I see it in my head, but by all means. And what? How do I want to phrase it?
I almost wore my flag shorts for you, but I chose not to because I thought I would have to show them.
Right. Yeah. You know what? I appreciate that, and I have a feeling the viewing public appreciates that as well.
Right.
As much as I'm.
Ironically enough, I think the flag is on my shirt.
Oh yeah. Right on.
Yeah. It's
There it is.
There it is.
Look at that. That's a black and white version of the flag. Woo! Always.
That's right.
Easy boy. I'll bet they have a flag of you floating around the state capitol as well, too, man.
Oh, only if Annapolis was so lucky.
It's not Annapolis, it's a Papillus, you know?
Oh, you've been waiting to use that one, I'm sure.
Man, dude, no, I haven't, but I'm really glad it came to me just now. I really can't even lie. As much as I'm poking fun at Nick a little bit, which I can't pretend is not going to happen sometimes, I have to admit that as much as we're poking at him a little bit, he kind of converted me on kind of the magic of Maryland, man. I went to school in York, Pennsylvania, which was closer to Baltimore than most places in Pennsylvania. And so I got to visit Baltimore a few times, and certainly went to visit Nick after college as well. But after 4 years of college, I left as big of an O's fan as anybody. And I rock my Ravens gear, and I rock my O's garb, kind of feudally, and kind of keep my eye on that as best I can. And yeah, man, it's a beautiful city, it's a beautiful state, and I fell under its charm, if you know what I'm saying, man. It's great. So I kind of want to go back to my first Oriole game, which was there with you. And one of the first things that kind of took me for a ride was the iconic national anthem at Camden Yard.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Nick, take me through.
You nearly had a heart attack. You nearly had a heart attack. I'll never forget that.
Tell me a little bit about that, man.
Well, if anyone hasn't been to the great city of Baltimore for any one of the many events here, when we do the national anthem, we put our own little twist on it. Other states try, but it's never as good as ours. But when when we get to the O in the middle of the song, we know how much we'd love to stress that letter. So when Polly was there, along with our buddies, I think it was Jake, Steve, was Polly, or was Denny there? I can't remember if Denny was there or not. Denny was there, and the quiet assassin himself. When we did the national anthem and that O came up, Polly's eyes might as well have fallen out of his head while he was leant over the bleachers in awe of how many people can say the letter O at one time.
Everybody rocking that diphthong O too. Like that was decidedly the Baltimore O, man. Like, oh man, baby boy. So beautiful. So splendid. Now, what was awesome and what converted me is the O's at the time were not a very good team, but they literally won in, I think, like the bottom of the ninth. And they won 3-2. And I remember we took a video of when they won. And I'll never forget, Nick was wearing like this sweatshirt, and suddenly he like rips the top zipper down, and he's just got like the Orioles logo like there, and he looks like Superman with the Orioles. Man, that's a video I wish I had, but it's forever etched in my mind.
Oh.
And what
I wish I could see that.
What I'll also never forget is when they were selling beers throughout the game, there was that guy selling Bud Lights. This guy, you want to do the impression first, or should I?
Well, if you could get it out with the straight face, then I think you should, because you do it way better than me.
Man, my goal is to eventually have Danny on the show, and we can just spend the first 20 minutes just waiting for him to say it once. You know what I mean? But anyway.
Oh my God, he would laugh more than you're laughing right now, just thinking of it. Just
yeah, exactly.
Hyping himself up for it. He'd just be like, he was just and he'd just be cracking up the whole time.
Exactly. It'd be one of those things where we'd all have to leave the room for him to be able to do it.
Right.
But anyway, there's a lot of build-up. But to be honest, between this past baseball season, I've spent more time in baseball stadiums than I care to admit. But this gentleman, typically there's like, hey, beer here, things like that. This guy was walking around. It's just with the most like elongated, raspy sound in the world, and I'll never forget hearing it. It's just all gosh darn 5 of us are just looking around at each other like, what the hell is that, you know? And him without getting cracked up. And he literally needs to like take moments to like focus himself to be able to get it out. And it takes him about 20 minutes, and it's always worth it. Oh,
He gets those little smirks going, and he just in his head he's like, I know I'm gonna sound terrible. It's so worth it. It's so worth the wait for him to try to do it, just to watch him prep himself.
very method acting approach to just simply say Bud Light. Like,
Yeah.
and he's a brilliant guy who can be good at many things. But if it took him that much time to say Bud Light, he could not sell beer. You know, that would not be part of his skills.
So great. Oh, the Colonel, man, the Colonel.
Mm. We call Denny the Colonel because we eat about 10 bags of popcorn in about a 2-day period, and that might even be generous. He was a
No, it wasn't 2 days. It was like a matter of like 5 hours. He ate like 9 bags of. He ate 9 bags of popcorn, and didn't take a single drink.
A single drink? How do you do that? Really?
Yeah. I will never forget that because I was in the room. We were watching a show or something like that.
Of course you were in the room.
He just as long as the door wasn't locked, I was in there. But he was watching something, and we were just watching for hours, and he just kept eating popcorn, and I never once saw him grab a drink the entire time.
My goodness.
Amazing.
That sounds about right, man. It sure does. I'll have to bring that up to him. This is my last thing on the state of Maryland, and kind of what kind of sets the tone for like what at least I don't want to say what Maryland means to Nick, but at least what we perceive that Maryland meant to Nick. One of the best stories that sticks out in my mind is when Steve Barillo had a bunch of saltwater taffy, right? And he asks everybody if they want some taffy, you know, and everybody
oh gosh,
yes or no, right? And so he asks Nick if he wants saltwater taffy, and Nick goes, and I quote, and nothing else. He goes, "Well, I am from Maryland." And there's just silence in the room, and Steve just goes like, "Okay, do you want it?" Oh man.
My ignorance is just off the charts, or at least it was. Now I'm very aware of how self-loathing I am, and how Maryland hyped I am now, and it's it's not going to change. Don't get me wrong, but I'm very aware of everything, and nothing triggered it more than when I came back to York, and we were going to what's the pizza place up there where you can all you can eat pizza?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. When we went there, and we were trying to choose the music for the car, and somebody suggested good old Red Hot Chili Peppers, Snow, and of course I started singing the song because big Chili Pepper fan over here, but I couldn't help but notice that everybody wasn't singing along during the AO parts. It was just myself, but that's okay.
Now, Nick, I have to tell you, man, if there is one Nick Pappas story that has worked its way into like the series of stories that I tell people, it is Your Listening to Snow is the first and only musical intervention that I've ever been a part of. Nick Pappas is a big fan of the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I am as well. And I would love to know everyone who is, you know what I'm saying? Like, Chili Peppers are great. Nick went through what I'll call a phase where he would listen to that song on absolute repeat. Like, Snow would play, like you would hear like Charlie start, like the next song on the track. It would just play it for like 3 seconds, and then it would just be like, all right, back. Listen to Snow. And thank God, in that instance, thank God I wasn't your roommate. Because even like we down the hall are just like, my God, you know, and then eventually Ben and Brendan, which in hindsight is the wildest like trio of people. What a random crew. What a random crew of 9 people for the record.
Yeah, that's for sure.
But suddenly like Ben and Brendan are just like, yeah, like it's actually starting to be a little distracting. Like it's something we have to kind of bring up. And I can't call it like a dorm meeting, but it got pretty formal where we just like kind of slid in and just said like, hey Nick, man, like you're kind of listening to that song a lot. And of course, you have Steve and myself down the hall who, with all due respect, especially Steve, but even me, like we're playing our music pretty loud. You know what I'm saying? And Nick's not doing that, but like we're playing like different stuff. You know what I'm saying? And Nick just had, gosh darn, track number 2 off of Red Hot Chili Peppers' Jupiter album from Stadium Arcadium. Just like boom, boom, and just back and we come in and we have this little talk, and it's just like, hey man, music's great. It's not too loud. We love it. You love it. I like the song too, but you're listening to it a lot. And Nick, to his credit, has the biggest heart in the world. Man, and you got to take my word on that. But it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll listen to it with my headphones. And, man, dude, the rest was history. But I've never had such a serious talk about something so trivial, man. And it's something that is forever kind of etched in my mind. That was absolutely splendid, man. Absolutely splendid.
That seems to be a daily reoccurrence in my life where I have to have these little talks about something that I do constantly or in a row, and we won't even bring up me playing with the lacrosse stick, walking up down the hall, unless you want to, because that's also one of your favorite moments.
It was just surreal. Like it feels like, you know what it felt like? It felt like a scene from Scary Movie where like something's supposed to be like kind of startling, but it's in hindsight it's like really very funny. Man, I'm just walking down the gosh darn dorm at 3 in the morning, and I'm my way in, and Nick is walking around like, what is it? What is it? Yeah, he's just marching with the lacrosse stick. Oh man, I'll never forget that. And then you see me, and you're a little startled because it's 3 in the morning, and you're like, oh, hey, pal. And I'm like, hey, man. And then it's like, I'm going to go to bed. And then, oh, dude, tremendous, man. I don't even know what to say.
I guess you could say that once I find something that I like, I kind of beat it to death until I annoy everyone, which is about what 60-70% of the stories that we have together. I'll just say a couple words, CP3 or just kidding.
Well, yeah. Whenever Nick was indeed just kidding about something, he would make it a point to say, just kidding. That much is true. That was never annoying. Sometimes it went without saying, but he was just, I hate you, just kidding. You know? I'm like, okay, man. Like,
I'm not a good dry humor guy, I guess.
The CP3, I'm glad. I want to say I'm glad you brought that up. Like I said, like Nick's the man. He's the nicest dude in the world. I think the only earnest time where I was upset with Nick was when we were playing Ultimate Frisbee, and every time he threw the Frisbee, he would say it's CP3 for Chris Paul, like make an assist. And it was very frustrating to me because I was not on his team, and his team was winning. And to be clear, his team won. But like it was a close game, you know, and it just felt like really some kind of like, you don't trash talk when you win by 1. You know what I'm saying? Like it was more my sour grapes than Nick being out of line. But it was genuinely the only time where I was just like, man, I'm gonna shut him up. You know, like I can't wait. You know. But he won, man.
We are very competitive competitive guys, so it's eventually going to come out eventually.
Yeah, man. Well, we're both competitive guys, man. A lot of magic
Right.
basketball for us. Big boy.
Yeah, they looked at us and were like, all right, do we even have to play these guys? But then they knew.
Man,
Still
best
got
times of my life are there in that Grumbacher court shooting around. Yeah, good times. I don't even have specific stories about that. It was just cool to play. Yeah, it was cool to play. And
I think it was more the amazing playing is as we know that Denny wasn't a big, at least basketball guy from what I could tell. He would play football and he played softball with us and all that, but definitely wasn't a big basketball guy. But by the time we were done with him, like it was just a whole new person. He used that big frame of his, and he could get any board you wanted. The waiter.
The waiter, yes. Oh, dude, I haven't thought about the waiter in years. Yeah. Denny, when he first started playing ball with us, wasn't much, like he was a physically imposing guy. He wore his jean shorts to the gym, which we'll never forget. All right, super.
Oh my gosh.
Denny will be on the program eventually. Denny took a walk. We were planning on going to the gym, get some lifting in, and Denny had jean shorts on, and two people at least said to him, just like, "Hey man, I'm not sure if they'll let you work out with jean shorts." And the first time or two, like Denny was like, "I don't know," you know what I'm saying? Like just kind of like dismissive of it, which he has every right to do. And then finally, I think the third person says it to him, and he's just like, "I know what I'm wearing, and I'm prepared to deal with the consequences." And you said something very Denny, and Denny does have these moments where he like kind of speaks like the Terminator out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Like he is the guy who'll say like,
yeah.
Like what? But yeah, man. They didn't let him work out in the jean shorts.
No, they didn't. Oh man.
But when he first started playing basketball, he's always had kind of an athletic build, at least in the time I've known him. But in terms of playing the game of basketball, like he was, it wasn't the best. He just wasn't playing all the time. But to be honest, man, you get me out on like the soccer field, like you think I have two left feet would be like an upgrade. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not judging anybody. And oddly enough, I say all the time, considering what I do for somewhat of a living, I think the only sport where you don't want me on your team would be baseball. I don't have the depth perception for that, really. But anyway, Denny's playing, and every board he used to get, he would just kind of try and grab it with one hand, and he would wind up kind of like trying to catch it like that, and like later,
trying to balance it instead of using two hands that he has.
Yeah, exactly.
It's always got to be the one.
And it sounds so easy, where it's just like, "Hey, Denny, you should probably use two hands," and he would just be like, "Oh, good idea." Like, you used to just do it with one. Like, yo, dude, like use your left hand, Oh man.
Oh my gosh.
But very earnestly, man, it's amazing. I give him a lot of credit because certainly by the end of college, but even by the end of that first semester, man, like he was a whole different player.
Oh yeah, he was very raw, and then he just worked on some stuff, and eventually playing. It's just like any other sport. If you play and practice enough, you're eventually going to get better. You may not be like elite at anything, but you'll eventually be good at stuff.
Yeah. There you go. Just learning life lessons from Danny. That's it.
Yep, every day.
That's all
every day.
Man, oh man, I don't know where to go from here. Speaking of intramural sports, I want to talk real quick about. Oh, actually, you know what? Just to address kind of the elephant in the room, we're making fun of Nick a little bit for like saying things over and over. But I think I had that tendency too, because I used to say "really" in a very, very kind of way. Now, Nick, can you hit me with a little
Yeah,
bit of
really.
here, Tom? Really?
Oh yeah, yeah. Of course, it would just be a little drawn out, just be a nice little really, just be a nice smooth, like a jazz tone, just like elongated with the EAL. Oh, it's great.
Yeah, dude. You were actually really good at that. Boy, oh boy, man. I'm very impressed.
How you? I'll be honest with you. I still do it to this day, and I do it with Gabon, and it's one of those. I have, of course, as you know, many tendencies when so really is on a regular basis.
Right on, man. Well, it sounds well versed, man. It really does, man. Uh, oh, boy. Um, I wanted to bring up real quick, speaking of our sporting exploits, uh, we spent some time playing some intramural football, and I thank you
Oh.
always for that. Which was, I say intramural
Woo, here
football,
we
and it
go.
was like a bunch of like passable players, and then Jake Alvis just being like a monster. You know what I'm saying? And Denny was good too, to his credit. I think those were, but like,
Let's not forget Scott, man. Scott, the unsung hero, being our quarterback. He
I
was
was
unbelievable.
I was about to say because he only played like in 2 games, but when he played, man, it was a real difference maker. Now,
Yeah.
I have two stories from the from the intramural football game, from the intramural football days, at least the freshman year. Now, one, I'm gonna make fun of myself a little bit, kind of, because I'm sure Nick remembers this too. Now, uh, I'm a fan of football. I was never ignorant of football, but I hadn't really played high school or previously. Um, I was big on basketball, obviously, and played a little volleyball to my credit. But a lot of what I did was music, man, music and theater, and just looking really jacked anyway. I was doing some reading on the intramural football rules because we all said we were going to do it, which I was pumped about. It's not like I've never played in my life. A lot of days on the sod farm, which you won't know, but growing up in town, we definitely played some tackle football out in the fields. But my point being, not the most versed in the game.
Right.
I somehow had it in my head that the center could not be like tackled. I thought in flag football that the center was just like there to like hike the ball and then like they were good. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like how
Right.
you give like the quarterback like 7 seconds or something like that. You know what I'm saying? I had that in my head for the center. And to my credit, like I'm a low key. I have my athletic moments.
Oh, for sure, for sure. You
They
you
might not go
totally
off.
threw me off on the basketball court, especially. I was just like, wow, this guy is a lot better than I was picturing. Not gonna lie to you.
Well, that's very kind, man. Yeah, I've kind of made
Don't worry though. Steve made up for what I thought you might have looked like on a basketball court.
oh no, man. Poor Steve. He didn't ask for that.
I had to, because he's
Yeah.
always throwing little digs in there. So I got to get mine
That's
in while I
true.
can, because he's a lot more talented than I will ever be.
But I'm there on the field, and again, to my credit, I'm probably the best center on the team. And I'm sure that if like Jake wanted to be a center, he'd be a great center too, but like Jake was needed elsewhere. And to my credit, like I can hike that ball. And but the first play of the gosh darn season, of course we have the ball first. And I'm there and I'm playing center and I'm jacked up, man. I'm ready to do this. So I'm there with my teammates, my gosh darn Laurel Hall buds, and some others, And I'm there. I got Aaron there on the sideline, who I'm seeing at the time, and which is a new relationship at the time. And so it's not like I'm like it's not my nature to ever be like an overly athletic or competitive guy, period. But at the same time, you know, when your new girlfriend's watching, you do want to kind of at least just be like confident. You know what I'm saying? And so I
Oh
hike
yeah, the ego sets in.
a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like you just don't want to look like a fool. That's it, man. It's not like you want to show anything.
Yep. Yep.
But I hike this ball, and I just hike it, and I'm in no athletic position whatsoever because I think I can't be touched. I think it's in the rules of the gosh darn game that like I am immune to contact. And
Right.
so I hike this ball and pretty much get up like I'm getting up from a chair.
Yeah.
This huge dude. Oh my, yeah. And this is probably what I sounded like after the fact, to be honest. but this huge dude, about as wide as a van, and he's got this Viking beard, and the dude's like already balding, which only goes to show like just how like the dude's a full grown man. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still like 18 years old. Like, what's up, dudes? You know, and this dude plows through me. And rest assured, if this dude wanted to, he could plow through me anyway. But if I were in an athletic position, I could have at least like braced myself or dodged or blocked him or anything like that. But I'm like totally head in the clouds, just like, cool, hike the ball, job is done. Looking forward to the next play. He goes right through. And first of all, I've been in some scraps in my life. It's the only time I've ever gotten hit where it took a second to realize like what the hell happened. And secondly, what I'll never forget is seeing the sky twice. I get hit and I'm like, there's the sky. And then I just keep rolling and I'm like, there's the sky again. And my glasses are off. And what I'll never forget, and it's all a little hit,
Right.
I got hit.
Right.
I really did get hit. I'll never forget, one, like the play stops because it's just like, he lost his glasses. And like, so both teams are just like, oh shoot, like nobody moved, which was awesome, you know? And I'll also never forget that even that guy's teammates were just like, dude, it's just a game. Like, what are you doing? Like, he took me out. And then, man, like once I got my bearings, I explained that, you know, it wasn't his fault, that I just was really kind of ignorant to the rules like an idiot. And we continued the game without any additional kind of incident of the like. But man, was that a humbling experience indeed, man. I'll never forget it. Do you have any memories of that particular play?
I just remember. I guess I was going out for a pass, and I just remember hearing somebody. I can't remember if they had whistles or just somebody saying like, "All right, the play's over," like really loud. And I turn around and you're just on the ground on your back, and I'm like, "Oh no!" What just happened? I'm like, "Oh gosh!"
Yeah.
And then I heard the glasses talk, so like everybody was like looking around for your glasses, make sure nobody stepped on them because, oh man! But I just remember turning around like, man, did we just lose somebody on the first play of the season? Like I felt so bad. I mean, to be honest, I guess competitor I am. I'm more so like, man, wow, I was open.
Yeah.
I was probably like, damn, I was open, but the play was stopped. That's probably what happened. More times.
Let's stay on your feet.
Yeah.
Now, I brought up my play first because I wanted to be fair, and so much of this interview could just be like me apologizing to me. You know what I'm saying? But the only other play that I distinctly recall from that season, other than there was one Ben Balionis caught one touchdown pass, and I remember he had to scream to Jake to like throw the ball, and I'll never forget just like the raw animal just like, you know, like he's just waving his arms. Anyway, but that's not a story. But I will never forget just the raw passion of that. But other one I'll remember is one of the plays where I was on the sideline and you were the center. And I don't know if you remember this, but I
Oh,
remember it so vividly where you hiked the ball and the ball wasn't hiked well, which is why that I'm the first string center, you know. Um,
well, you ain't lying. You're not lying. That's for sure. I'm glad that was my last play.
but I remember you hiked the ball, and as far as I'm concerned, the ball goes right into your pappuses. You know, I'm just glad you have kids, two lovely boys. Uh, but I'll never forget. One, you go down for like a half second. You go down for a little bit because I think you took a hit. And then Jake gets frustrated because that means that they had to, like, you know, we lost it down. And I think they might have backed us up a little bit. Jake picks up the ball and he spikes it. And he spikes the ball, and you're just getting up from like whatever injury you took, and it just bounces and hits you right in the side of the head. And I just remember, like, I've never been so out of breath without being on an actual sports field because I'm just trying to play it cool and still support my team, but that was the funniest thing I've ever seen. Oh, but I do remember also you made a touchdown catch jumping over that gentleman Ross. I think that was his name. And I do remember that being a great play. So, man, for as small of a role football has played in my life, some really cool memories from that time, by all means.
Oh, I remember because the whole play. I mean, as we all know, based upon how much Jake sweats, he's a very competitive person. So when the ball and it was a fumble, and the rule was that the play was down at that point. The play was over if there was a fumble. So of course, when I hiked it and hit myself, the ball just fell and rolled towards him, and he just picked it up out of pure frustration and threw the ball down. And that's when I took the second hit to a body part in one play. And none of these were by humans, which is crazy.
Oh, man, such a splendid memory, by all means. Now, Nick, we spent just a magical first year, man. Like I couldn't even begin to jump into all these stories, but one story I did want to mention is when coming back for our second year in Spring Garden Apartments. I'm not even saying this for his benefit, and I'm not saying this to be nice, man. I was rooming with my dear friend Steve Murillo. I was rooming with the Colonel Denny, and I was rooming with Jake, and I was pumped about it. But the person who was missing was Nick Pappas, man. 1,000,000%. It was going to feel different without you right there, man. And I remember Jake calling me, asking like when I was going to be there, which for Jake wasn't that weird. Like I remember we lived off campus too, and he called me. I think he was just kind of paternal in that way, just kind of checking in on people. But I remember Jake called me to see when I was going to be getting to the dorm, and then Steve called me to see when I'd be getting to the dorm. And for Steve and I have nothing but love for each other, but Steve and I are both kind of alike in the sense that we're just kind of like, yeah, when he gets here, you know, like that's just us. And the fact that Steve was invested in me getting there, I remember rang a little weird, but I had nothing to think of. So I arrived to the Spring Garden Apartment, and by sheer chance, my dad, out of the blue, just brings up your name. Now, my dad knew that we were friends and this, that, and the other thing. But my dad is basically just kind of saying, like, yeah, it's got to feel different without Nick here, because Nick feels a very unique kind of role, man. He's a one of a kind dude. There's a reason he's on this program, you know. But my dad is going into like kind of this thing, almost like a soliloquy, where he's like, "It's a shame you can't just call out to him. It's a shame you can't just throw up a signal whenever you need him to be there." And it's, and then he literally goes like, "Oh Lord," for Lord Baltimore. He's like, "Oh Lord, where are you?" And my dad is not, the dramatic type, but he's like really jumping into some real, Shakespearean kind of stuff. Lo and behold, out of nowhere, Nick Mathis emerges from the armoire and says, "I'm right here." Now, first of all, I'm floored because I've been surprised. Second of all, one of my low-key favorite memories is you popping out of there and being all pumped and saying like, "I'm right here." And then immediately you just like succumb to like the heat of being in there, and you're just like, like, and it's like he went from like healthy fit as a fiddle to just like drained in the matter of moments. And man, I'll just never forget that. It was such a special surprise, and I don't know, man. I'm just glad you emerged. I'm just glad you emerged. Period. But secondly, emerged alive after kind of witnessing the aftermath. You have any thoughts? Put into that planning.
Oh man, well, you know how competitive Jake and I are on who are the most wet after a good run of basketball.
Indeed, man.
But
I do know
I
that.
can honestly tell you, when I jumped out of that armoire, I've never sweat more than Jake in my entire life. Unbelievable. But it was well worth it for the surprise and the fact that we had your dad in on it was great.
My dad's so unwittingly playing right into it, man. It was absolutely splendid. Now, I wanted to be sure to touch on two more things. One, there was a time where during that first year, you pledged for a brief time to a frat. Am I right about that?
Yeah, probably the one decision I regret while I was at York was trying to join that frat, but I'm glad I didn't go through with it the entire way. But I just remember thinking I was getting into some bad stuff, just coming in, filling my book bag, leaving, coming back, hood up the whole time. I'll never forget, you sat me down. If there's ever been a friend who sat me down as a parental unit, it would be you, and was just like, "Listen, dude, are you into something here?" And
Yeah.
I'll never forget that.
Well, I mean, that's very kind of you to say, man. I mean, I'd like to believe that, everyone I love, I kind of got an eye out for. What I'll never forget about that is Nick's not really the type. Like, Nick's the kind of person will tell you what he's doing, like even if you're not asking what he's doing. You know what you know what I'm saying? And I say that with a lot of love, but like Nick really is that kind of guy who will be like, I'm going to eat now, and then after that I'm going to study, and you're just like, oh, okay, enjoy that.
Say it.
I'm eating your gumballs. So it's just like, oh, okay.
Oh,
But there was this kind of phase where Nick would just kind of be like really in and out, and it was kind of noticeable. But it's not like it drew like any real red flags. But it was just kind of like, man, he's kind of all over the place. But you know what? Part of freshman year of college is like meeting friends outside of your dorm. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I'm not saying that the whole time we were like, I hope he's okay, but it was noticeable. And so I remember what kind of changed that perspective. And I'm just being very honest with you here, is our freshman year of college, Shaquille O'Neal was going to play his first game as a Phoenix Sun. And we were all excited about that. Excuse me. And suddenly we get to like tip-off time. And I think we saw like maybe the first 2 minutes of the game. And then suddenly you say like, oh, guys, I got to go real quick. And that was the concerning thing, because we're looking forward to this all day. Like, what the hell happened? And I remember, like, we're like throwing out hypotheticals, and then somebody says, and obviously this is all like very false, so I have no shame.
Right.
Somebody says, maybe he's dealing drugs, and like nobody said no. You know what I'm saying? It's not.
Wow.
Yeah, right. Like it's not like people said like, oh, that must be it. But like everything else that was said, people were like, no, you know, no, you didn't, dog. But when somebody said like maybe he's dealing drugs, nobody said that wouldn't be the case. And we just kind of like silently continued watching the game, and eventually the subject changed. And then after that is when I kind of sat down and said like, hey, you know, you doing all right? And I can't say that I remember the exact details of the conversation, and I can't say that the exact details of that conversation would be appropriate for this kind of show. But I do remember eventually, shortly thereafter, I think maybe even that night, it came back like, yeah, I was out dropping off my stuff because I was pledging and this, that, and the other thing. That was the timeline, no?
Yeah. Well, I also remember, and again, like I said, this whole frat experience, that couple weeks, whatever it was, I regret it. Hopefully, especially the night when we went to the theater to watch you on stage try to win a date with Paula. And
you were there for Jamin.
for Jamin. Sorry, not you. You got the picture.
I went up for support,
that's what it was.
And I got the freestyle rap. That was fun.
Yeah, and I regret that because I'm sitting in the audience watching, and I got a text saying, "Hey, the frat guys are going bowling," and I was just like, "Hey, I'm going to the bathroom," and I just never came back. And that was the one time like I knew I disappointed all you guys. I was like, "Oh, I should have." I mean, in hindsight, I wouldn't have done it because it really wasn't worth it. But it was just like, oh my gosh, what at the time I wasn't thinking about you guys at all in that situation. I regret that, hopefully. And it was just like, I was just, but it was like I committed to being with you guys that night, and I should have just stayed. And it was just like, I got a text saying, "Hey, we're going bowling," and I was just like, all right. That was like the one time that, well, as you know, I'm a self-confident guy, but that was the one time where I'm just like, these dudes don't matter. And I can't believe I ever thought that way. I can't believe that I ever did that, because none of those guys, except for my friend who I went to high school with, who was in the frat, but I haven't talked to any of those guys since then. So it's just like, I've talked to you guys multiple times on many occasions, and just like I go back to that night and like, if there's one thing I could have whole changed, just that whole frat thing, just not do it. Oh, sorry.
Nope, all good.
Still there?
Yeah, I'm here. Well, no doubt, man. That's cool to hear you talk about that. Shoot, man. Certainly nothing to it. We came out the other side just fine. Jamin came very close to getting that date. I think he came in second. I think it's mostly because like we were all shouting so loud for it that he got. But what a magical night. Anyway, man, that's cool to hear you talk about that as you leave me.
No. Somebody keeps trying to call me, so it like bleeps out.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll tell you what. You just had somewhat of a apology moment with me. It wasn't an apology, but for the purpose of the segue, it's an apology moment. And I want to extend to you an apology moment for a time that I came to visit. And I came to visit Nick on a Saturday in the great city of Baltimore, which now we both love, and I love thanks to Nick. And to my credit, I had the best of intentions, but like I literally left for Baltimore at like 3 a.m. on Saturday morning. And because I wanted to just have all day, all weekend, just really make the most of the visit. And so I get to Baltimore just fine, having driven, I think, to be honest, like leaving at 3 a.m., I think it really only took like 5 hours to get there. Like it really wasn't that bad. Once you get past New York, it's all relatively smooth. But anyway, I go to visit Nick, and we spend a wonderful day in Baltimore. And we might have even met like Greg and Emmy. You know, like we met I think we saw like an O's game, and basically it just made a real day of it. And what I'll never forget, and it frustrates me like how earnest you were about this, is like Nick throughout the whole day was just like, yeah, this is great. But I'll tell you, man, what I can't wait is tonight's the Eastern Conference Finals, and I haven't watched basketball with somebody who really gets it in a long time. Man, oh man. And the whole day we're having such great times. Like, they're a little touristy, but I guess because I'm not from there, like, to me they feel special. And Nick's like, yeah, like, this Orioles game is cool, and just like, yeah, this restaurant is nice, and the Inner Harbor is pretty neat. But man, I just can't wait to watch basketball with you later. And like, it's so earnest and heartwarming, and I'm all about it. Like, let's do it. But then we get to game time, and it's the Pacers versus the Heat. And suddenly, like, me being up since 3 a.m. that morning really kind of starts to manifest itself. And I'm starting to get really tired. And I get the luxury of sitting in that blue reclining chair. And it's finally game time. And I remember with every fiber of my being, I remember David West of the Indiana Pacers hits the first 2 buckets of the game. He goes 2 for 2. And it's 4-0 Pacers. And then I just recline that chair a little bit, and I'm out like a light. And suddenly, it's not even, I don't even know, to be honest, I was a little out of it, but I don't even know if it was you or Julie who was waking me up at like 3 in the morning and said, like, hey, like, we're all like done now. If you want to go to like the couch, you can. And suddenly I was like, oh, like, but the game, and no, it's over. Like, so I spent a lovely day in Baltimore with Nick, and then we finally get to like watch basketball, and Nick is so pumped about being able to talk basketball with somebody, and I fall asleep on him in the first second and a half.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, I probably at the time was probably like, I can't believe he just fell asleep during a basketball game. Like, you're literally at the time, because my brother, who is really big into the NBA right now, I mean, we talk about it all at the time. Only person who really watched the NBA religiously and like followed it and knew every player on every team and just knew what to look for and all that kind of stuff was you. So like when you came, I mean, the other time you came, we watched. I'll never forget your Blood Mavericks beat the Heat in the finals. We watched that at my mom's house, and it just like it was just it was great. It was like, yes, I got somebody who's going to get it, because my dad is one of those old heads that were like, they don't play any defense. You can just watch the last 2 minutes of the game, all that kind of stuff. It was just like, it's so it's I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it's all good though. I mean, I completely forget about it until you bring it up, but it's all good.
Well, no doubt. That's why I'm here. I felt really bad. I'm glad we've been able to put that behind us. Nick, man, do you have anything else you want to discuss before we call this episode quits?
I want to see, on a more serious note, speaking of the NBA, great segue. What do you think they're gonna do for this season? Like, I keep reading about it. Like, do you think they're just gonna call this like a null and void season, or because when I read about it, it was like they're gonna try to get these games to go all the way and just like kind of like push back the start of next year. But then I'm thinking to myself, like, I would rather just null and void the season. But then it's like, what do you do like the MVP race, even though we know Giannis, deserves the MVP, but the whole narrative, and we know how the MVP votes are, the whole narrative of LeBron coming back and all that was, starting to heat up, and, it's just a whole bunch of storylines were coming together, and then boom, it's all gone. And then I don't want to see it to where the season's just lost.
Yeah.
But what is your thoughts on it? Like, I would rather them push everything back and finish this season and maybe start the next season late and try to like recover, But I mean, I don't know what the best thing fiscally that is for them, but
I I think that it all kind of depends on the timeline of when this actually kind of is in the rearview mirror. You know, I think I think what's frustrating is that there is going to be, in my opinion, there is no going to be real a federal moment where this is behind us. I think New York is going to plateau, and then suddenly, Georgia is going to really surge, and Louisiana is kind of surging right now. And I don't think there's going to be one benchmark for the country of when things resume. I think it's going to be gradual no matter how you slice it. I think it would be nice to have the whole season played in some capacity. I think that's very feasible because there have been lockout shortened seasons. And I think that that's the only testament you need when it comes to realizing that shortened seasons are still productive and entertaining and this, that, and the other thing. What that kind of throws a wrench in is kind of the off season and in terms of letting players recover a bit. And I would hate to call this time in history like a chance for them to recharge, because it's not, like it's emotionally draining if nothing else. Like I'm not, the last thing I'm going to make it sound like is that this is a positive in any way. It's not. But theoretically, to be able to kind of maybe play best of 5 series and then jump into a next season just to kind of help economically some of those staffers around the country kind of recover. A lot of those people, to be honest, and I don't need it. Like, rest assured, like I'm not a great example, but like I'm an MC for a minor league baseball team as I pick up my imaginary microphone. And for me, that's just fun. Believe me, it's nowhere near a career. It's a blast. I get to chill out, with kids and families and make the same dumb jokes I would anyway, just with a microphone in my hand and sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" on top of the dugout. Like, I have the best job in the world. But those people who kind of rely on that more than I do, it would be great to see them have an opportunity to finish out this season and then jump into a shortened one. But in terms of what that means for the offseason and trades and things like that, like in terms of just the nature of the league, I don't know how that works. But you'd hate to lose a whole season, especially when a team like Milwaukee is so relevant. You know what I'm saying? Like, anytime,
right.
Like, this is almost not even a story. Don't get me wrong. Like, there are bigger picture things at play, but like, I think reason number 1,000,003 why it would be cool to play is just to see like small market teams actually have a shot at something. Because I don't think that the shelf life for the Bucks, unless Giannis is there long term, like I don't think that's necessarily. They're not going to have that many seasons of a window to actually win a title, in my opinion, in today's NBA.
Yeah, I mean, they're, and especially at the level that they're playing, they're like, they lose Brogdon and they get better.
Yeah.
Brogdon goes to the Pacers, changes it around, and then, Oladipo's not back and he's playing at an all-star caliber form, and they lose that player and they get better by replacing him with guys like George Hill and DiVincenzo and, guys like that. It's just like, and, like you said, it all starts with Giannis. I mean, that's just the NBA. It all starts with a superstar. You need one to win. You more or less need 2 to win. But
well, you know what it is? They play like the Suns used to. But it's not Steve Nash. It's like an actual like freight train and freak of a human being.
Right.
And so it's basically the Suns from their like heyday, who were close in their own right to really tapping some potential. But instead of Steve Nash, who's just a gifted passer and hell of a shooter, you have a guy who can just basically punk anyone that he wants within reason. You know what I'm saying? And then when he doesn't have a shot, he can just dish it out. You know, so I mean, it's really I don't know, man. And you know what? Those storylines, those will heat up again real quick. Because you really think, you know, like God forbid if they're themselves and their families are all right. If you don't think LeBron's in the gym right now, you're crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I mean, all that stuff is going to happen, and the Rockets were hitting the stride with Capella not there. Like, but all that stuff will happen right again. But it's just a matter of will the time frame kind of allow them to do both? And you'd hate to see the season lost, but it's more important to see the game come back right than it is, you know, for the safety of everyone. It's more important to see the game come back right than, you know, cling to the 2020 season of what could have been.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we could do a whole nother one of these episodes on just the NBA. But
Yeah, man. And you know what? Maybe we'll do that. These things are delightfully unrefined, and I'm sure that you know, we'll certainly cover topics as vast as myself and my friends. I'm so glad to consider you one of them. Now,
yeah.
if I had the ability, I would play us off with some White Stripes Ball and Biscuit.
I have to tell you, another one of those how I listened to Snow on Continue. That day when we talked about that with Steve, I'm not kidding you, and I'm pretty sure my wife wanted to punch me in the face. I downloaded that song, right? Because I couldn't remember what song it was. I downloaded the song, and I literally played it for an hour because it just made me think of you two. Like, I will never, like, I can vividly remember you dancing. Like, you would like just start grabbing stuff, and then Steve would just find anywhere in the room to start playing the beat on it, and it was magical in its own right. And probably no one else in the world would appreciate what I saw, but it was just like, because you two, like you said on your episode with him, your first one, you know, it's like he said, like you two had very different tastes to the upper echelon. Like, you know, DMB and Weezer are not the same kind of bands.
Right.
And then, but like when it came to music, like any other thing, like any other musician or, you know, songs you agreed on 90% of everything. Is just the upper echelon stuff is where you didn't agree. And then that moment where you guys are listening to the White Stripes and the song comes on, I remember your head just like pops up and you start dancing. And Steve's starting to play on his computer to the beat. And then you just, all of a sudden, you get up, you push the chair back, and the rest is history. It was amazing to me. And it was just like, and you guys fed off each other. And it was not more like you were trying to one up each other, but it was like you would start doing something crazier. And then Steve's like, all right, well, I'm going to start taking the armoire doors and slamming them to the beat. And then you're like, oh no. And then you just find something to take it up to the next level. And the entire 7 minutes and 2 seconds, it was amazing. Amazing. It was.
I do remember at one point, like trying to make noise out of my beard.
Yeah. It was a.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was.
I'm telling you, man, we were a weird bunch. And we didn't even do drugs. Boy, oh boy.
I know, and I think that's the most amazing part, that only one person I knew of, well, we'll exclude Brendan from that for a second, but out of all of us, there's only like one of us in the crew. Oddly enough, Ben and Brendan were just like, other than us making fun of Ben constantly about the most random stuff.
Right.
Like, well, just to say the grilled cheese moment. But other than that, it was just like the rest of us, like the other 7, and even Scott was on and off. You know, Scott was in his own little world at times. But the rest of us, it was just like, wow, like it was incredible. Like the 6 of us coming together, and even the 9 of us all together, was just like, oh my God, what a weird bunch of people to be in together.
It
And
just
it worked.
Well, Nick, man, I want to thank you so much for being here and joining me. I'm telling you, the Corn Chronicles, in their own way, would not be what they are, and I would not be the person I am without your friendship and just constant light, constant understanding, and quite frankly, man, constant patience. I really mean the world to me, and I can't wait to see you again, not in the Zoom chat room. And all my best to you and your family. And any other Orioles come through the Ducks organization, I'll be sure to hook you up best I can, man.
Yeah. And man, it was great. As soon as I saw you do this with Steve, I'm like, I got to get on this. I was like, this is going to be awesome. I was like, I want to do like 8 episodes. I just want to go on. I just want to do it forever. Because, I mean, I don't know if you remember, but like my big dream was always to be like on radio or TV, just talking about sports and stuff that I like. So, I mean, this might be the closest I ever get, but I'm going to cherish every moment of it and try to stretch it out as much as I can, just like anything else, as you know.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to have you back on. We'll certainly do that in about a month or so. Man, oh man. Thank you so much, Nick. Have a great one.
Thank you, Polly. Love you, bro.
Love you, my friend.